Leedsichthys is a massive fish, quite literally one of the biggest fish to ever exist on Earth. And this one came about in the late Jurassic oceans and will be coming to Path of Titans as a playable creature. Today I'm talking to you about what could come with it, how it could be in the game, and of course when I think it's going to release. Timestamps for everything are on the screen now, and if you are new, feel free to subscribe. But other than that, let's get into the big pog fish. Leedsichthys is an interesting one, and before I tell you about it in Path of Titans, I need to tell you about the creature as a whole, or this big behemoth of a fish as a whole. So this big guy lived in the middle to the late Jurassic period and is one of the largest ray-finned fish and amongst some of the largest fish known to have ever existed. In fact, here's some size comparisons of it now. I tried to find a good size comparison, but I couldn't find too many, and so yeah, this might be a bit skewed or a bit off. I've got two here, but Leedsichthys is sitting at 53 feet, which is half the size of a blue whale, which is still quite big. That makes it just a little bit smaller than that of a whale shark, which is still, once again, one of the biggest fish to ever exist, which also makes Leedsichthys a very big fish. That being said, when you compare the actual width or the length of these creatures and the weight, maybe Leedsichthys could be heavier, because it definitely looks like it could be wider in that sense, or longer in terms of bottom to top. I know that's a weird sense to say that, but yeah. And technically, this creature, although bigger than Megalodon and the great white shark, which obviously is quite a small shark, and Megalodon is quite a big shark, it's bigger than them two, but it's not like them in terms of their lifestyle. Leedsichthys is a filter feeder, much like the basking shark or whale shark, and so that means this fish will be living a big passive lifestyle. Unless, of course, you're playing Ark and, you're on a boat and this thing becomes a boat hunter and murders you while you're sailing around the map trying to look for things. Yeah, this thing becomes a terror of the seas when you're playing on Ark, and it's an interesting one because it basically then just leaves you to die in the water after it's destroyed your boat. But Leeds is an interesting creature in my eyes because it's, of course, a big fish, and in the game it will utilize that new filter feeding gameplay system. In fact, for the stretch goal reveal, because Leedsichthys is a stretch goal creature for Path of Titans, as well as all the 4 other fully aquatics to come to the game, Leedsichthys is interesting because in that stretch goal they said this: it will come with a filter feeding mechanic, as well as 1 model, 3 variations in form of subspecies, 3 skins, animations, and more. So Leeds will have that big filter feeding gameplay style and be the only creature in the game to have that filter feeding gameplay style, which will be interesting. But how will that even work? Well, let's talk about it, shall we? The filter feeding mechanic will be an interesting one, especially in game. But filter feeding in real life is something that a lot of creatures do. For example, the whale shark and the basking shark are 2 more notable ones that filter feed. Essentially, they will be swigging up tons and tons of water and filtering it through their gills, getting the food or plankton or phytoplankton out of that watery soup and into the gills, and then it's filtered that way, and the water then leaves through the gills and back out the way it came in, pretty much, kinda. Leedsichthys is going to play a similar gameplay style, I bet, to that with its filter feeding system, but will it just be able to sail the high seas with its mouth wide open, just chugging water along as time goes on? I don't think it will. Now, I feel like, of course, there'll be designated areas where you'll be able to filter feed. However, I feel like these areas will glow a little bit, so it's a filter feeding area. Maybe only Leedsichthys will see that slight glow, but I do feel like that will be the case. I also think that maybe it would be best that this area of plankton or filter feeding location will be something that slowly migrates through the map, which means the Leedsichthys will not be just going into one area or staying in one area to feed, and they'll be promoted to move around, because as the tide goes and the current goes, that plankton or the phytoplankton or whatever it's eating will be moving in the current, and so the ground will be moving as well. This is something I also think would be a cool idea. It could make the creatures move around the map more, kind of like how the water system makes land dinosaurs move around the map more. And to be fair, I feel like this is going to be an interesting one to grow in game, because, well, yeah, it's a big slow fish. How the hell are you going to be doing normal quests? I feel like maybe when it's younger and a baby, it'll be a lot faster, and then as time goes on, it gets a lot slower. But yeah, I don't imagine it'll be very, very slow, but I do think it will be slow. Now, of course, we've talked about this creature in terms of how it would be in the filter feeding mechanic, how it could be in game. But yeah, no, in game, this is going to be an interesting one because it's a big, slow fish. It's a filter feeding fish. It literally will just spend its life filter feeding. And that's what it will do in game as well. It's like having an Argentinosaurus, which is very slow. And people who play that with that mod know that it's very slow and quite weak until it's fully grown. Then it's a towering behemoth that is pretty hard to take down. I feel like Leedsichthys will be like that, but in the ocean. I think it'll be hard for it to grow when it gets younger, and it'll be weak, very weak when it's younger. Just being able to outrun some things maybe, but not quite. Kaiwekias will be able to feast upon it. Maybe Tylosaurus and your Hinosaurus will perhaps be feasting upon it as well. But then when it becomes a big, bad fish, a big fish, is going to be quite the titan to take down. Now, I think this creature will have 3 attacks. I think it's going to get a standard bite attack, which everything in the game will get, and I feel like that's standard. I feel like this will be one of the only aquatic creatures to have a tail attack, but I feel like this tail attack will have some form of potential stun damage to it, where if you hit something with it, like if you were to get hit by a whale tail or that of a shark, you know, it's going to hurt, like a fresher shark, or maybe just the fins of a whale, like I've said. It hurts, and it could potentially kill you or stun you, and I feel like that will be the case with Leedsichthys. I feel like its tail attack will have that ability, and it'll be very strong and quite formidable. And then I feel like it'll get a charge attack. Now, I don't think it'll be like that of the Tyrannosaurus Rex. I feel like it'll be more like you're just moving forward faster, and when you're moving forward faster, if anything goes in your way and gets in your way, that will deal a lot of damage to them, kind of like a battering ram, but without a bite or anything on the end, just a headbutt, kind of like Pachycephalosaurus's headbutt charge, but without the knockback and just a lot of damage instead. I guess that will be the case. I feel like it's simple abilities for this creature, but I feel like there's no other way to properly balance this creature out without making it either stupidly weak or stupidly OP, because it's huge. But I feel like this could be a good way to balance it properly. And yeah, let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments down below. I'd love to know how you think Leedsichthys will come to the game. And now we go into the prediction. So of course we're at the outro, but when do I think Leedsichthys will release into the game? I personally do think Leedsichthys is going to be one that will either release this year or not at all this year. I feel like if it does release late this year, it'll be like around Christmas later this year. In fact, we haven't even had the next 2 creatures release yet, and there's a lot of updates coming this year with quests and combat improvements and the replay system. So I feel like Leedsichthys will be tossed aside and moved to next year. Maybe it'll be coming sometime in like January next year or late this year around Christmas or the holidays, like we saw with Gondwar. That's my prediction, but other than that, that marks the end of this video. Let me know your thoughts about Leedsichthys in the comments down below. It is a big fish, and I'm very intrigued to see how this one performs in the game and when it comes to the game. Let's hope that the prediction that I've put forward is terrible and it comes a lot sooner. Like we'd said with Gondwar and Aquatics and Flyers, that was quite shambolic. But yeah, that's that. Let me know your thoughts, but I'll see you all in the next one. Have a great day. Peace.